Good morning. Day 2 of the Gender Equality Forum. We are gathered here today, let's say, for the chat and chill session on building up an inclusive feminist future with Joanna Maycock. A very important distinction having Joanna in our title because she will be driving and leading this session, which will be less chilling and more chatting. It's going to be a participatory interactive session broken down into 3 parts. We're basically going to ask you to unpack your concerns for the future, your hopes for the future, and then putting it all into a roadmap and taking us forward. So I'm going to describe it as, let's say, a fast-track masterclass in taking your concerns and hopes and operationalizing them into a roadmap so that you leave here feeling like you have momentum to take you forward, concrete commitments and actions so that you don't feel like things are just staying in theory, and we don't want you to also stay in the problem zone and being pessimistic because it's an easily done thing given the world that we're in. So we want to give you something to bounce you forward, let's say. But before we begin, I'm not going to introduce Joanna because it would be a disservice to her myriad talents. So Joanna, tell us who you are, what you do. Please proceed.
I've got 20 minutes to introduce myself. No, when you said all of that, I thought it sounds more like less like a fast track, more like a very high speed TGV train, doesn't it? If we're going to do all of that in 20 minutes.
Are they high speed though?
Yeah, another question. So yeah, I'm Joanna. So I've been living and working in Brussels for astonishingly 32 years. I was born in the UK, but I also grew up partly in France. I've got a Dutch mother. I've had a Belgian passport for many years as well. And I've worked all that time, really, in civil society, non-governmental organizations, fighting for social justice, and particularly for women's rights and gender equality in the world, in Europe, and even in Brussels, right? So even in the city where I live, I'm part of a collective which seeks to build bridges amongst diverse women. Brussels is the most diverse city on earth. To really build bridges, to build conversation, to build understanding, to build belonging, and to build hope as well. So I'm a feminist activist. I support different organizations and social movements in integrating feminist principles and practices into their leadership models, so really transforming power, transforming leadership, and into their organizing models. So how do we organize for change and for an inclusive feminist future for all?
I told you we're in really, really good, capable hands, if not more. So without taking up too much time, I want to start asking you so that we can build up this kind of two-way conversation, many-way conversation even. What has been the most impactful gender equality achievements? No, we're not doing with hope first. We're doing concerns first. No, we want to leave on a high. Excuse me, sorry.
Put you down, then bring you up.
Absolutely. So, riffing off of the last day as well, from the sessions that you have attended, the key learnings and takeaways, what are the biggest concerns to achieving gender equality in Europe? Can we have a flying mic going to someone who would like to take the floor? We have Julia over here.
Hello. It's working.
It's working.
Good morning, I'm Julia. Thank you so much for the amazing introduction. I think I left yesterday after the amazing conversations, the amazing workshops, feeling very enriched, but also one question kept popping in my head, and it is, we're talking about gender equality, which is about including everyone, yet we're still very much talking in binary terms. Mm-hmm. So my fear was, we are progressing, but why are we leaving so many people behind if we are only talking about men and women? What about people who do not identify in binary terms? So how can we progress, including everyone, truly leaving no one behind?
Do we want to hear one more concern, and then we can reflect on that?
I think we should take a few, actually.
A few? Do we have to? We have to. Okay. Hello. Welcome. No, absolutely not. Welcome. Do we have the mics up? Please go ahead.
Yeah, so my concern is coming from another place. I think, here we are with our allies and we have these amazing conversations, but we can discuss, some people will say, like we have to be more inclusive, etc. So there are some things we don't agree on or can have a discussion, but in general terms, we will say women's rights are human rights, etc., etc. But we are not living in a vacuum. And I think what is concerning me is that on Monday I went to the Council of the EU. I'm the advisor to the State Secretary for Gender Equality in Belgium, and we had a discussion about demographic future of Europe. And the atmosphere in the room is we have to make women to make more children because we don't like immigration. And this is actually the narrative that is coming more and more to our conversations. So I don't think we are in the same rooms. And I think this is concerning, that we have different conversations on a political level now.
We're still having this kind of operating in silos.
No, I think it's just that the political narrative is changing. We're not speaking about gender equality. Well, we're still speaking it, but we'll just give it lip service and we just move on to something completely different.
Go ahead, yeah. And then we'll go to you.
Partly linked to what she said, is that I think we are not giving too much attention also about the economic aspect, the economic perspective about independence, like financial independence, how to start, how to continue, and how to reach the gender equality on our own. I don't know how to say so. And I think this is a topic that is not so well discussed, and especially in practical terms, which tools can be provided or not. That is.
Yeah, my concern after yesterday, especially in the very insightful conversations we had, was regarding especially young people. I think we have to take into account this lack in trust when it comes to institutions. So we see a declining trust in our lawmakers and policymakers because they don't really take our voice into account. So my concern is if we don't focus enough on building that trust and creating an environment that actually brings all the different voices that make up the gender equality movement, for that matter, how can we move forward and how can we ensure that the policies that are being implemented are the ones that this generation and future generations are actually needing?
Anybody else still on concerns? On concerns, maybe we can hear just one last one, and then I'll put all of my concerns into the mix as well, right?
My main concern is looking at my day-to-day life, the people I meet, I feel like we are in a little bubble here, not little, but in a bubble where, everyone agrees and yeah, we all believe in gender equality, while it seems that the other side is becoming even more going back to the traditional family and, traditional values, and especially young people as well. So it seems that the divide is becoming more and more strong, and especially so in my day-to-day life, sometimes I don't even know how to respond, to some claims of people who, again, don't even believe, in a different kind of family. So yeah, this is a big concern of mine.
Yeah, and just on that point, I've been hearing a lot about how is it Gen Alpha? Sorry, I'm like a couple of generations before, so is Gen Alpha current?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm hearing that even from them, the ideas are setting in at such a young age,
Exactly.
and it's solidifying.
Exactly.
One more? Yeah.
Thank you. For us, I work for Make Mothers Matter, and the concern is we have been working since many, many decades already. Of course, changing the idea of families and the mother. But my concern is the far right now that is trying to sell a social idea model, as somebody just said, pushing families and mainly women, of course, of Europe, to have more children, with all the problematic that we are facing towards migrant mothers. and minority mothers and vulnerable mothers. And we have not been finished with the big issue of unpaid care work, among other things. So we are asking mothers to be everywhere, which is very good because we can do everything. We can be trained. We can have a family. We can in Europe decide that we are in a good position, not as many of our members from Africa, etc., where they cannot choose to be a mother or not. But then we are not solving this mainly male construction of our society, that is the care work, household, or caring for your beloved ones, is mainly on the shoulders of mothers. And then with all the economic disempowerment that brings, pay gap, pension gap, which is the double of the pay gap, and that, as you heard yesterday, in countries like Sweden, Sweden still has a gender pay gap that is not low, it's above the EU average. Yeah. So how can that be? That we in Finland is 15.5. So how is that possible? I mean, how are we supporting? I have the impression, and now with all the far rights, sometimes we think are we going backwards? And with this, some people, we were talking yesterday about this trend on the trad wives from in young people.
Yeah. Like a resurgence of the gender stereotypes in
but
full
somebody
force.
reassured us yesterday that this is just a trend, algorithmic trend in Instagram or TikTok, I don't know. And we should not worry, but is worrying that you are selling these models that, of course, nobody in this group would say want to support.
Package it up.
Brilliant. So we've got a good spread of concerns and worries and very relevant ones as well. And the overarching thing, in fact, is that in spite of decades and decades of effort by many, many, many organizations, individuals, movements, we still seem to be stuck, right? We still seem to be stuck. We're not moving forward. The Gender Equality Index, which is such a fantastic tool, shows us we're just not moving. And that's, I suppose, my overarching concern, is that we are still tinkering around the edges. We're not really dealing with the fundamental structural issues that underpin the economy, the violence, the roles we play. And whereas actually people have talked about a sort of resurgence of traditional views, I think they've always been there, right? This stuff has never been easy. It's never been easy to achieve equality or to fight for equality, to have women and people who don't conform with gender stereotypes or norms taking more power, taking more money, taking more voice. You know, these are always been really difficult struggles, and we call them struggles for a reason. So it feels like we've got new stories and new narratives that are extremely worrying. There are new tactics being used as well. There are new ways in which these old stories are kind of resurging. And taking power as well. So it feels very much like something new, but actually I feel like it's something very old that's getting new clothes and new tools. So if I package my concerns, ultimately it's about power, it's about money, and it's about the very deep stereotypes that keep women as second-class citizens, and I mean women in particular. Those very clear second-class citizen status that you can see in the statistics, and that doesn't mean we don't need to consider and be concerned about talking about the non-binary as well, right? But we also need not to disappear the real experience of many women and very diverse women as well. So the issues are very deep, profound, systemic, structural, and that means that the solutions need to be, and the stories and the narratives perhaps need to be different as well. So I don't want to talk about the solutions yet, because I want also to hear what has given people hope.
Yes,
perhaps.
we want to harvest a couple of sound bites on what has given you hope in general, or also from the forum as well, attending other sessions. Can we have a few things to keep us, let's say, moving forward a little bit lighter, because it's so easy, it's human nature to fall back in the pessimism. What can we say? Oh, there were more hands for concerns.
That already says a lot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's have a couple of hopeful points.
Yeah.
I work with data and specifically looking at gender equality in the workplace. And so what we see is that even if progress is very slow, every year there is progress. So every year the ratio, we evaluate like 6,000 companies, and so the ratio of women in leadership and women in the workforce, in the gender, these ratios always go up while the gender pay gap goes down, although it's very slow, and we still have these problems. Year on year, there is progress. So I think this is where we can see hope. So we are going, towards a better future, but it's just too slow.
Yeah.
Got a couple more.
Yeah.
So I think what really gives me hope is women's and feminist and radical activism that I see, like when you come from a generation and you see that there are so many young people that really are progressive, and you may feel alone, but then you just go see collectives that are on the streets, that are online, and I think they're carrying out the torch, and they may not have exactly the same views as you have probably, and you can have a very interesting conversation, but it seems that it's still alive. We may see those, as Joanna was saying, those narratives coming on, but there's also the counter wave there, and this is, I think, something that we should be proud of.
I think something that both data and experience is showing that women are becoming more and more independent financially, which I think is very, very important coming from a developing country. So when, for example, observing, because I'm a woman migrant, right, and the approach is usually that there is a man migrant who migrates and the woman as a dependent migrates with him, but actually statistic is showing that every second migrant now is a woman, and every third asylum seeker now is a woman, and those usually become the providers in the family, and at least economically they are the ones who are also there getting jobs, and they're more dependent on themselves rather than the male. And this aspect and mindset changing I think is a very good positive change and giving hope.
One more, and then we do a quick roadmap. Go ahead.
Maybe so we have hope that now care is being talked, it's been verbalized. We have been working for decades about unpaid care work, and the people didn't kind of understand, and they thought we wanted to keep mothers at home and caring for the children. And now it's been taken also very importantly by environmental actors, because care is not only what we produce for us, is what we produce to our family members, of course, but it's more than that. It's caring for the environment, it's caring for our societies, it's caring for our countries, it's caring for where we are. And that, I think, we are linking with other actors that usually we were not so close to, and that brings me hope. And of course your work at EIGE, because everywhere we go, and I know many organizations, and everybody here is citing your work, and that gives us this is a statistic.
The evidence to say
serious.
that we are, Okay, in less than a minute, package it all up, take all of this, and give us a roadmap.
Well, those of you who know me know that I've been working on this stuff for over 30 years, right? So I'm a hopeaholic. I'm somebody who believes that hope comes from action. And I feel there's so much opportunity to galvanize power, collective power, build movements. Not often we talk about young people, to answer your question, as if, are we going to hand over to young people now? They're going to do. I feel we've got to really work across generations to learn from each other, to build really inclusive movements. That means sometimes going deeper into conversations where we might have different views, but it also means reaching out and building a much broader movement for change. We have a lot of allies, potentially, that we often marginalize through our very inward-looking conversations. Now is the time to really build power, build collective power, seek allies, think about new ways of storytelling, building new narratives that really include more people. And I think that's where some of the movements in the far right have been really successful, is in kind of reaching out to new people. We need to do that and not spend our whole time arguing against them, but actually building our hopeful stories that I think really most people want to be part of, building a world which is more caring for themselves, for each other, and for the planet. And that is the sort of inclusive feminist future that I'm about. Thank you.
To take you away, please find your inner hopeaholic wonderful. Thank you for your engaged insight. Thank you.